You have different, you can speak for yourself as well as the organization, of course. People sometimes say, well, basic income would be a kind of wage subsidy and it would allow employers to get away with paying lower wages. Some basic income advocates actually say, yes, that's a good thing and that's why we should do it. Other basic income advocates say no, and this is the camp that I fall into, it'll actually force up wages because you'll give people more bargaining power. Where do you guys come down on all of this? Or you personally?
I think a lot of the things that we've tried to do to put upwards pressure on wages don't really work, and they're incompatible with a lot of other economic goals. And we just see that in society, right? I mean, I think for us, the key thing is focusing on the outcome, and the outcome is getting everybody an income above the poverty line. And so whatever model we go for needs to achieve that goal. And so if it supplements someone's income that isn't getting them above the poverty line, as far as we're concerned, that's a good thing. That's better than that person, living in poverty. And I mean, I think separately to the Anglicare Australia work, this idea that people should work full time 5 days a week, it is a really, really recent idea. So for most of human society, work was seen as it was kind of seen as this thing that you didn't really do, or you outsourced it to people who weren't really people, like slaves or whatever, or you did it as quickly as you could, so agricultural work was sort of done at certain times of the year and you kind of just got it out of the way so that you could live your real life. It's really been in kind of the last 300 or 400 years that we've been attached to this model of full-time work. So I mean, I think a lot of those perspectives, they come from this idea that the best thing for a person is just to work full-time. And I just don't.
And you could even
I just haven't heard any persuasive argument for why that needs to be the thing that determines whether someone lives in poverty or not. And
it also used to be that there would be one full-time worker per household and one person, and that was obviously a gendered divide of roles, and maybe we didn't want it to be so gendered. But the way we've resolved that is now having both members of the household work, and in fact, basically, you need both members of the household to be working full time, especially if you're the lower end of the income spectrum, to keep up with the cost of living and the cost of housing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So and that's even only in the last couple of generations that it's gone from being one member of the household working full time to both. And there's been that extra squeeze. And why wasn't it the case that, when we balanced out the gender roles, that implied, men working fewer hours outside the home and spending more time in care? Why did it just become women getting to be promoted to the status of men by getting to work outside the home more?
I think that's an excellent point, but I think it also goes to the way work has just colonized every aspect of our life, and kind of also colonized much of civil society. That, like, the main measure of the progress of the feminist movement it's all measured by women's success in the workforce. And that's, I don't want to downplay that is really really important, but kind of going back to what you said, we did another piece of research back in 2018 called The Real Story, and it was kind of a much more comprehensive study of people's attitudes towards poverty and welfare. And one of the components to it was kind of an ethnography of other research. And one of the things that was really interesting and a bit sad in that is actually that wages have been stagnant in Australia for a really, really long time. We're feeling the impact of it now because everybody is at the absolute ceiling of how much they can work. What's gone up in the last several decades is household incomes, not actual wages. And so people are actually purchasing their wages with more labor. That's what's happened over the last kind of 30 years. People are just working more, and there are more working people in every household, and they need to do that just to, you know, as you say, Austin, just to keep up with the cost of you know, basics, the cost of basic things, you know,
especially housing.
Housing, transport, education, health. The cost of all these things that we actually need are going up. The cost of a whole lot of other things are going down, but the things that we actually need to survive, those costs are actually going up all the time.
I thought I might quote Eva Cox, which I had to write this down. She said this just a week ago in support of UBI. Feminism is not about getting women to do what men do. That's from Eva Cox. And I just thought that kind of speaks to what you were saying earlier.